Good afternoon, everybody, and I hope you've had a great week and a good bank holiday last week, where we were in a position where we didn't have our weekly Women in Recruitment webinar. So we're really pleased to be back this week with Deenita Pattni, who's going to talk us through today positioning you and your personal brand. Deenita's a highly qualified coach in public speaking, and I, for one, am really interested to hear what you've got to say today, Deenita. So welcome. I'll hand over to Deenita, and we'll be taking questions as always through the chat box. So please do field them through as Deenita's speaking. We'll put questions to Deenita during the session, and then we'll also have a short moment at the end to wrap up with any that we've missed. So Deenita, over to you.
Thank you very much, Natasha. So I'm very, very excited. I've been I actually also have a recruitment background, so I've kind of always been involved or seen women in recruitment, seen things by APSCO. So yeah, I'm really excited to be delivering this. So when Joe contacted me about sort of coming on and doing a webinar, we kind of had a chat about what was really, really prevalent right now. But I also thought that it's not just about right now. Obviously, we're going through this current climate and this current crisis, and everything is COVID related. But some of the things I want to talk about is good, really, really prevalent right now. But it's also stuff that you need to keep on doing even afterwards when we get back to, I was going to say normality, but it's not really going to be like that, isn't it, Natasha? Some kind of normality, or whatever the new normality is. So like Natasha said, I've got some I'm going to go through a presentation. I've got some slides that I'm going to take you through, which I'll share my screen in a second. But yeah, just a reminder, if you've got any questions, I'm going to be taking questions after each section. And if you've got any questions, then do put them in the chat box. Try not to use the Q&A box. The chat box is ideal. And then we can take those questions as and when. But I want to try and make it as interactive and make sure that I'm serving you as much as I can. So I'm just going to share my screen and hope, oh, let me just get this. This is what you need. Perfect. So is that all right, Natasha? Can you see the screen?
We can, thanks, Deenita.
All right, awesome. So, so stand out, speak out. So what is this all about? Well, really at the moment, one of the things that have been that's been really, really obvious is just our need to remain visible, visible in front of our potential clients, candidates, but also our existing clients, candidates, and kind of partners that we might be looking to connect with. And there's been a lot of stuff right at the moment, especially around businesses and the workforce, about pivoting their business. I think that's the word of 2020 is unprecedented and pivot. Those are the two things that you keep hearing. And pivot is not necessarily about changing the way you do everything and changing your whole model and how you recruit and how you run your desk or your department or your agency. But it's also about, but it's really about how you make subtle changes that suits a different market, just like you would do in any normal recession. So, if you're kind of there currently where you are right now, maybe, you're struggling to be seen by potential people, you're worried about what the recruitment sector is going to be like, you're worried about your particular desk because it's gone very quiet. We know that recruitment industry is definitely one that's been hit hard during these times, depending on what sector you're in, and you're wanting to instead still remain at the forefront of your existing and potentially new clients' minds. And the stuff that I'm going to be talking to you about is really how you stay visible, not just during this time, but also how you continue to remain at the forefront of your client's mind, even during good times. Because, I don't want to teach you to suck eggs, but really the recruitment industry is one where it is very competitive. I know, I worked in it for 17 years, being based in central London as well. So it's such a competitive and saturated market. So even when the market gets back to, some kind of normality and starts to build again and starts to regain confidence, how do you regain your confidence and sustain that and make sure that, the people who now need you, because they know that you've got a solution for their problem, how are you the first name that comes up in people's minds, in your client and your candidates' minds? one of the key things I think that is really important in helping you stand out and be the one that is seen as the expert of choice in your industry. So not just a recruiter, not just somebody who hires people for companies or finds people jobs, but you are somebody who is a thought leader within your industry. And I think that's so important, because too many people who come into recruitment don't see themselves as a thought leader, but that's where you're going to make a massive, massive difference. So in order to become a thought leader, you have to remain visible. So the question I have for you, first of all, before I start anything, is if you could just put in the chat box, and Natasha, you can kind of read out some of the answers that are coming out. If I was to ask you, what business are you in, or framed a different way, what are you, as a recruiter, what are you in the business of? So just put what you think. You know, if somebody said, what are you in the business of? What would you say to them? It'd be really good.
So we've got one that's come through saying recruiting recruiters.
Okay, recruiting recruiters. Yeah, perfect.
Do we have any other, please? Consultation.
Excellent. Yeah, just keep them coming. Yeah, and there's no right or wrong, so just keep them coming.
Quality management, compliance and auditing. Talent attraction. Life science industry. Client partnership.
Oh, nice.
Training recruiters. Trusted partners.
Trusted partners, yeah.
Building relationships.
Nice.
Relationship developer.
Okay, brilliant. So some really, really key points there, actually, and they're all right. They're absolutely all right. You are in the business of, you know, finding talent, building relationships, quality management, talent management, client partnerships. Some really good trusted partners. Some really good answers there. So in NLP, we refer to this as chunking. Ultimately, what you are in the business of is communication. Because all of those things, in order to achieve any of those things, and in order to achieve the results that you want, in order to be that trusted partner to your clients and your candidates, in order to be all of this, you are in the business of communication. Because if you do not communicate the right way, if you do not communicate enough, and if you do not relate enough to your ideal clients and candidates, then none of these things are going to happen. So you are in the business of communication. And I think it's important to remember that. It's not, because even if you think about the process of recruitment, you know, you've got to communicate with candidates, you've got to communicate with clients in order to get the business in. You've got to then make sure that the candidate communicates the right way to the client, and the client communicates the right way to the candidate to hopefully make a placement. You then need to go into negotiation, which is another type of communication. Everything that you do is about communication. So before I tell you about the three parts that we're going to look at, let me just quickly tell you a brief reason as to why this is so important to me. So I started my recruitment career. I fell into recruitment. I'm sure some of you can familiarize yourself with that. I fell into recruitment by accident. I actually started my journey as a journalist, but fell into the world of recruitment because somebody thought I was a great people person. So that's what I would be good at. And then I realized that recruitment was about selling. And I thought selling was a dirty word. I was like, oh my God, I cannot do that. But luckily, I had so many great people around me in the companies I worked for and in terms of my own personal development that I realized that actually selling was just another word for serving in the right way so that I could provide a solution that my clients needed. I wasn't selling them something that they didn't need, a mistake that many recruiters make. So throughout that, I basically worked for a number of companies. I started my career at PFJ, which is now called Aspire, and then went on to work for Morgan Rutherford. Recruit Media and Exchange Team was the last company I worked for. Now, all of these were in the communication and media PR space. But I really, throughout my career, I really understood the importance of communication. I went and trained as an NLP trainer just to ensure that I understood how to influence using communication, which actually really went against a lot of what the industry was known for and had a reputation for. And that was important to me because I wanted to change what people thought of recruiters. Eventually, I then went on to train because I was so passionate about changing the way recruiters thought that I wanted to help other recruiters do the same thing. So slowly I started to train agencies in recruitment, but very much around the mindset and how they perceived themselves in the industry. What did they think of themselves? I worked for a few companies, a few agencies, as well as internal recruiters as well. And then moving forward to that, it kind of, my career kind of sort of went into different things because I was a public speaking coach, because I did a lot of speaking. I then began to really pivot my training to a much wider audience. I wrote the book Recruitment Gems Uncovered in 2018, which became a #1 bestseller. And that was really, the feedback I got from this when recruiters bought this was very much around the fact that it was something that they could keep at their desk and refer to every time they needed a little bit of help. And I will be giving you this PDF version absolutely free at the end of this presentation. So I'll tell you how you can get hold of that. So that's really a background on me, and I did recruitment for 17 years, and the fact that I almost left within the first 3 months, I found a system and a strategy that kept me going and also had me appear as a thought leader. So I had clients phoning me up saying, so what's happening in the market? It wasn't always oh, I'm looking for this job to be filled conversation. Candidates would call me up to just find out a little bit more about, what the movers and who the movers and shakers were. So it was much more of a, I think, like one of you said, a trusted partnership, and that was important. But the only way to get that is to be more visible in the right way. So this presentation will be 3 parts. Part 1 is position yourself as a go-to expert. And some of these things are really key right now. Part 2 is how to be visible online the right way. And part 3 is to overcome the fears that hold you back. So let's kick off with part 1. So positioning yourself as the go-to expert. So for this, I've literally created an acronym. So we're going to go through some of these elements. And then at the end of this section, we'll take any questions. So if you've got any questions, keep them coming up in the chat box, and then Natasha and I will take those questions on. So right now, you may be thinking, well, at the moment, nobody's recruiting. My clients are, are making redundancies. Like, there's no point me even putting myself out there because there's no work out there. And that is a fundamental mistake, because during these times, just like it would be in any time of recession, I've been through 2 recessions, one in 2002, then again in 2008. Even in times of recession, you need to remain visible, and it's just about being visible in different ways. But the first thing that you need to do is you need to embrace what is happening. So rather than bury your head in the sand and go, oh my God, my agency isn't going to make any money, we're going to be not profiting, or if you're a recruiter working for somebody, oh my God, that's it, I'm going to not make any money, I'm going to lose clients, I'm going to lose candidates, how am I going to help the candidates? Instead, embrace the reality of what is happening right now, because it's out of your control. Nobody knew at the start of January that we would be locked down for 3 months and possibly longer. None of us knew that. So, but what happens is, in your brain, the only way that potentially new ideas can come to you is if you open them up, if you open the brain up to possibilities. But you can't do it if you're focused on a very foveal way, as in on the one thing that is wrong, the one negative thing, the thing that's happened to all of us that is causing uproar throughout globally. And what happens is, when you start to focus on that only, then you're never going to see the solution. There's a saying that if you have the mindset, if you focus on the solution with the same mindset that you focus on the problem, then you're never going to find a solution. So embrace what is happening right now. That'll give you ideas and innovative ways to work around it. It'll give you some new ways to be in touch with your candidates. It'll give you new ways to help your candidates, possibly, because they may be future clients, remember. So just embrace what is happening. The second thing is you have to have the X factor in order to be positioned as an expert. But in order to have the X factor, you've got to be out there. So what is unique about you? What is unique about the way you've worked and the relationships that you've built up until now? Don't forget all the good that you've done up until now, the relationships that you've built, the kind of image that you've got for yourself, the brand that you've got, the brand that your agency have got. What have you been known for? Think about all the testimonials that you've had in the past. What have people really, you know, congratulated on because you are different from everybody else? You are different from other competitors. So hold on to that and use that as a way to communicate with your candidates and your clients. Next, pivot. Like I said, a very, very, very popular word within our times. How can you pivot? So I had a lady who runs a PR agency contacted me recently, and what she talked about was how she was gonna, because the PR sector was one that, again, she couldn't see really returning very quickly. And she said to me, I'm really confused as to what to do and how to help my clients and my candidates. And through the story that she was telling me, she told me about how much she'd coached her candidates throughout the years that she's run the agency anyway. So like that is a way to pivot her skills. At the moment, she can provide a different service to her candidates to help them remain confident and help them possibly get look at another pathway, look at another way to develop their career. And she can also do that same service for clients. Just because clients are the ones that are usually recruiting does not mean that they are not having challenges at the moment, that they don't have challenges that they might need some coaching on when it comes to the recruitment sector and what is possible. The next one is educate. Now, this is absolutely key. Look, LinkedIn is one of our platforms. It is the platform to be on, and it is a platform to position yourself as an expert in. The challenge is that we use that platform like a job board. Instead of using it like a job board, use it to educate your market, your connections, your network. Remember, your network is your net worth. So educate them on what is happening. Educate them on how the industry is going. Keep up to speed with what is happening in your market. So not only educate yourself, but educate the market and educate yourself. What skills up until now that you haven't had time to really look into, what additional skills might help you in your career? What additional skills could you actually brush up on that you've just not had time to do because you've had a busy recruitment career and you've not had time? You know, as we all know, the hours sometimes that our recruitment careers, you know, give us in the workplace is ridiculous. You know, you literally just about have time to go home and eat. So this is a time to use the space and time that you've got to go, actually, what can I do for myself, and reinvest in yourself. The fourth, which some of you already mentioned in the chat box, was relate. So start to now reach out to people in your industry, reach out to your network. You know, start doing videos, start doing lives, start really talking about what there is out there for you. Have an opinion. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on in terms of content, but have an opinion on your market, even if it's not the same opinion as anyone else. Put a question out there, get engagement. It all is about being that thought leader. And when you're a thought leader, you are considered an expert of choice. And that is a key thing. You have to be considered as a recruiter to go to when they're ready to have you again. So it's really key. And the last bit is you've got to continue to build trust. Look, at the moment, trust is something very thin across all sectors. It's thin with the government, it's whatever political party you have an allegiance to, it's just generally thin. People don't trust what's going to happen because there's uncertainty. So what can you do to build trust with your network, with your clients, with your candidates? Can you, and the way to do that is, address some of the concerns that that your clients and candidates might have. Be an advisor. Don't, just change that role of just being a recruiter, because you've got to get away from that reputation that you know, recruiters are those individuals who find somebody a job or find somebody an employee, and then that's it. They never get heard from again. That's not you. That's not this industry, actually. So start to build trust with all of those individuals. Reach out to your existing clients, because it's the existing clients that, you know, that think that, oh, you know, if you don't get in touch with them, they're kind of like, well, I thought we were trusted partners. That's one of the words that you guys have used. So if you're a trusted partner, then start to reach out to your existing clients, see what help they need, see if you can serve them in any way, or just have a conversation. And all of those things helps you to be seen as an expert of choice rather than just another person within that industry. So I hope some of those things are great tips. So Natasha, have you got any questions or comments on any of that?
So I haven't got any questions through yet, so I'm going to just comment, if you wouldn't mind, whilst I give everyone an opportunity if they do want to push anything through before we move on. But yeah. I just wanted to say thank you for simplifying that so much, because sometimes we can overcomplicate things, and actually what you've done there is really break it down, and this is not a frightening thing that you're telling us to do. And part of what I've been reflecting on over the last few weeks, as you said, was a little bit around sort of development and doing those things that you wouldn't have done otherwise. So I've taken the opportunity to read some books that I would probably have found an excuse not to read before, and to really think about what the changes are that are happening at the moment. And I came to a bit of a conclusion that I have been sharing and talking to others about, that this time has really allowed us to start thinking about being human again.
Yeah.
And as you talk about trust, it makes me think about how people trust you when they think you're being a human being, don't they, rather than a robot or a commodity broker, which is perhaps sometimes how we can come across. And I think the fact that we now sit in our own homes and people sit into our living rooms or our bedrooms or our kitchens is actually a real opportunity for some of the things you've talked about to come to life a bit more in a more human way.
Yeah.
And you talk about embracing, these are some of the things we've had to embrace, aren't they? And now is a real time to not be scared to be human, and to relate to people on a very human level, showing compassion and empathy. And that will build the trust, and it would allow, I think, some of the things you've talked about to become much more natural and easy to do than when we're in this world of trying to put on this image all the time and operate in a bit more of a robotic function. So yeah, I can really relate to a lot of what you're saying there, and I hope that actually one of the benefits of the time we've been in is that we have all become a little bit more compassionate and understanding as humans.
Yeah, absolutely. And that connection, like you said, because a lot of the time if you think about it, as recruiters, yes, you know, you'll go and meet clients every now and again, but the relationship is just over the phone at a time when it's needed. There is no other relationship outside of that unless you have a lunch every now and again. And the great thing about Zoom as well, I know some of us are like Zoom, like you said, fatigue, I think you've mentioned earlier on, didn't you? But now to be able to actually just sit in wherever you are and actually see each other, like you said, it definitely has much more of there's definitely that embracing, well, actually this is a new way of doing things, but it might be a better way.
Yeah. So thank you. And there's been no questions come through at the moment, but if any more do.
All right, no worries. So the next part that I'm going to go through is, and this is where some questions might come through. So I'm going to give you some real tangible tips here as to what you can do to be visible online the right way. Now, earlier on, I mentioned about how being on LinkedIn is really our platform. It's a platform that is one we've probably already embraced, and with, you know, the majority of people that you see on LinkedIn are recruiters. Now the thing is, interesting enough, even if you've got a LinkedIn recruiter account, and I've never had one of those, but right from the start of my recruitment career, when LinkedIn first came out, I straight away went on it and used that as a platform. And the great thing about that platform was that it really because I didn't just post that I was, you know, looking to fill a job, or I was looking for this type of candidate. And this is where I want you to really write down as many as you can notes on how you can be online on LinkedIn in a very, very different way, in a way that you get noticed, and in a way that you get remembered, and in a way that you get recognized for being the one that kind of outshines everyone else from your competition. So let's look at a few things about what you can be doing to be visible. So one of the things that I actually do coach people on and is on how they can use LinkedIn as a marketing tool. So all I've done is I've just taken a bit of content out from that, because I thought these two elements, there are 5 in total, but the 2 elements I'm going to talk about today are specifically brilliant, I think, for you guys, and it certainly has helped me as well. And remember, everything that I'm talking about is stuff I've done, because I think the best type of training is the one that you've done and experienced yourself. So I'm going to talk you through 2 key points to do with your profile that you absolutely must get right, so that you start to attract the right type of people into your business as a recruiter. So the first one is what I call personify. Now, if you look at your own LinkedIn profile, you will probably see it kind of reads predominantly like a CV. And if it does, it's time to change it, because unless you're looking for a job, you have got to have a profile that speaks to your ideal client or candidate. Okay, and candidate, which means that you have got to have a profile that positions you as an expert in what you do, so that when they come to your profile, they A, want to connect, they B, want to build a relationship with you, and that 3, they want you to help them. Those are the 3 things that you're really aiming for. And it might happen that people initially just want to connect. It may be that they're ready to go straight to number 2, where they want to build a relationship with you, or it may be that they do want to go straight to number 3. But there are things that you can do on your profile that gets them to number 3, which is they want you to help them. And whilst I was in recruitment, and I worked in recruitment from 1999, so I'm going to be showing my age a bit, right up to 2012. But right from the early stages in the early 2000s, when I started using LinkedIn, I was doing this. And this helped me to win clients off LinkedIn, clients that I didn't know, clients that I didn't have to cold call, clients that I didn't have to convince, because my profile did a lot of it for me, because it positioned me as a thought leader. So what do I mean by personify? So personify is really building a profile with your customer in mind. So therefore, it's a bit like building an avatar. And an avatar is really understanding, if it's clients that you want, it's really understanding the kind of clients that you would like to work for, knowing them, because some of you may be, I think a couple of you did mention, but, a lot of you are in particular niche or sectors that you are experts in. So you need to speak the language of that sector. And rather than make the profile all about you, you need to personalize it for your client. You need to speak their language. And when I say language, I don't mean French or German or anything like that, of course, but there are certain words and keywords that they are going to be using and that they resonate with. And you've got to incorporate those keywords into your profile. Now, here's a really key thing, and I think this is absolutely, well, it's one element that most people do not know. LinkedIn is what Google consider an authority domain. So Google actually has a measurement where they measure certain websites by what they call an authority. LinkedIn scores 100 out of 100 for being an authority domain, which means that even if people are not searching for you on LinkedIn, if people are searching for your sector as a recruitment agency, or they want help hiring, or they want help getting a job in your sector, and they're searching for recruiters in Surrey, in this particular sector, when they put it into Google, the more optimized your profile is and the more personalized it is, because it personifies your particular sector or client, your LinkedIn profile will come up first. And that's a really good way to get clients. So that's the first thing, is look at your LinkedIn profile and see who, if you were reading it, who is it aimed at? is it all about you? Because I hate to say this, but when your clients and your candidates are looking for a solution, they really don't care about you. However, they do care about what you can do for them, which is why you've got to connect with that language. So I hope that makes sense. So the second part, the second P out of the 5 that I'm going to talk about today is another really key element. So before I talk about that, I'm going to ask you another question, because I think it's time to get you guys interactive again. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, if you were at a networking do and somebody said to you, what do you do? Can you just write down in the chat box what your answer would be? So, because that's normally the first question that people ask you, especially if you've gone to a sector specific and they don't know that you're a recruiter.
Depend on a friend for company. I have spent years swerving this.
Oh.
That's interesting. No, I think that's somebody who's saying, I'm not sure I know how to say what I do.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So,
yeah, I run a recruitment business. I'm a legal recruitment specialist. I try to attract talent to my company. I'm a recruitment manager. I connect JavaScript developers to technical managers, helping to scale up their front-end and full-stack development teams.
Okay. I'm
a pharmaceutical recruitment specialist. I run a global recruitment business. I'm a quality manager for a recruitment firm. I'm a director of a consultancy. I connect talent to businesses.
Okay.
Recruitment consultants and grow businesses through training and coaching. Okay,
brilliant. Thank you very much, Natasha, for going through those. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of you have talked about, you know, I'm a recruiter, I'm a director, I run a global recruitment company. So lots of what you do. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. So let me just show you, because what we're going to talk about here is the next part, which is profile. And what I mean about profile is the little heading that comes underneath your name on your LinkedIn account, on your LinkedIn profile. So you have your name and then you have the little subheading as it is. Now, let me show you a few examples of what people do on LinkedIn. So I did a search for recruiters, and then this is what came up. So you got recruitment consultant. Some of you, by the way, may be in this, I don't know. Recruitment consultant at Adecco, helper of candidates, residential recruitment consultant, freelance recruiter. So all of those, so that little heading that comes underneath your name, as you can see, none of them stand out. Because if I had to search through LinkedIn and go, right, who am I going to choose? And I had no idea, I would literally, there's what, just for recruitment consultants, I think was what I put down, there are 1.5 million results. Now, obviously, I can narrow down that search by putting London, or, you know, if it's a local area, I can do that. That's not an issue. But the point is there will still be lots and lots of people. So how do you stand out as an individual? And people don't just do it in the recruitment industry. There is a couple of others. So this is a lettings agency. I work with a number of people in the lettings industry now. And again, look at that, lettings agent, lettings agent, lettings agent, lettings agent, etc., etc. And if you're on this call because you have started your own business, your own recruitment agency, a bit like I did many, many years ago, then many of you might consider yourselves an entrepreneur. And again, entrepreneur, entrepreneur, director, entrepreneur. So there's nothing that makes you stand out if you just have I'm a something. And that's what people do wrong when it comes to their LinkedIn accounts. And this particular heading here is the one heading that can make the biggest difference in terms of the kind of people that you attract and how you make the people who come across your profile feel, because they've got to feel like you can help them, that you are the solution for their problem, because that's actually what you are. Your service is solving a problem. And you should be very proud of that. And I remember when I worked in recruitment, I was so proud of that, because I knew that, especially for the clients and and the candidates that I built trust with and that I wanted to help, that was where I was coming from. It was a yes, I like the money. Great, the money is great in recruitment, but that wasn't my highest priority value. My highest priority value was helping my clients and candidates. And as a result, the byproduct of that was I made a lot of money. And that's how you've got to imagine, because if you've chased the money, you might not get what you want. But if you actually come from a place of passion and you do it from a place of help and care and serving, the money will come rolling in. So it's really important. So the question is, what do you do with that particular line? Well, you've got to make it, like I said, about them. So here are some examples, not all recruitment examples, but these are some examples of people I've helped and how they've changed their profile. But the key thing that you've got to remember is, I want you to just pay attention to some of the wordings that are under some of these profile headings, okay? So, professional public speaker and coach, I help you speak confidently with authority, be memorable for all the right reasons. Helping your business to grow profit and to sustain through the implementation of laser focused skills. Helping you to expand your business through empowering your future leaders. Helping you to communicate your company's brand story with the creative flair you need. Dramatically increase the value, credibility, and visibility of your business with a powerful brand marketing strategy. And then this is, I think this is what mine says at the moment, providing individuals and organizations LinkedIn and public speaking training to help you be seen as an industry expert. Okay, now the key thing here is it's about, because you're not just a something, a director, a recruitment consultant, that, just think about how that sounds in your throat. You're not, you're more than that. You are somebody who can, I think somebody said about connecting talent to businesses. That is actually what you're doing. The only difference there was you talked about I connect talent to businesses. So rather than just holding on to the I help your business attract the right talent. That word you and your is so important when you want to become visible and you want to be seen as somebody who is caring, so that people come to you. The key thing in recruitment and in any sales industry is, rather than have to sell to your clients as to why you are the best person, instead you want your clients to buy from you. And that's the thing. So don't try and sell to them, give them enough reason and give them the authority and the thought leadership that you represent, so that they want to buy your service or buy into your service if you do contingency. And that's the key thing. Okay. So just wanted to obviously really sort of focus on why that is really important. And the other area that I just want to go through before we take questions is very quickly how you can use the platform to be seen as a thought leader visibly. And here are some of the key things. So first of all, put content out there. Content is king, as we know. So put content out there that basically share your knowledge. I remember many people, and especially when I was training recruiters, they were so scared to share their knowledge because they thought their competitors might steal it. No, share your knowledge. Most things are available on Google anyway, but you know, your knowledge is your knowledge. It's got your opinion on it. It's got your perspective. So share your knowledge and be seen as the expert, because it's your knowledge and know-how that will inspire people to see that actually you know what you're talking about. One of the reasons my clients often used to have those kind of conversations with me was because they felt, whether that was true or not, but they felt that I knew what was happening out there in the industry. So they wanted to have those kind of conversations with me. And that's how I became a trusted advisor and a partner. Next, have an impact, as in challenge the status quo. My key mission when I went into recruitment training was I wanted to challenge the status quo within the industry. I wanted to provide training to recruiters that wasn't being provided, in my opinion, anywhere else. I wanted to really, really put that forward. So challenge the status quo. too many people in business, they want to be liked, but you've got to have both. You've got to have 100 raving fans, and you've got to have 100 raving haters. Okay, you'd rather have those two than 200 people in the middle who don't care either way, basically. Because it's when you split opinion that you become noticeable, and you become somebody who is worth listening to. Next, be very, look at the niche within your industry. What are all the different things that you could talk about that hasn't been discussed, or has been but you have an opinion on? So niche it down. Whatever sector you're in, if you chunk down, there are lots of different subjects and topics that you can talk about. So niche it down. Really go think about, what is it when your candidates talk to you, when your clients talk to you, the challenges that they're all having. What is it that they are talking about that you could maybe do an article or a blog on, or you could do a 2-minute video on? Very easy. And then finally, give, and then ask. The old adage of ask and you shall receive is no longer true in business today. Today, you have to give value to receive. And honestly, people will start to buy into you. So that is how to get visible online. And I just want to mention Charlotte Lidster, who is a director in talent management. I worked with her, actually. She was one of my, we worked together for many years, but she did some work with me on my LinkedIn. But I just specifically want to talk about why it made a difference, just doing some of the two things that I've talked about already. So within 1 week of completing my training with Dee, my profile went up 10% in the rankings. So she was a top 18% of all her profiles, comparable to her job role. And then she specifically was recruiting for heads of European, their European branches. In a recent project where she was headhunting, she put 19 people contacted, 13 people replied, and 9 of which were interested in discussing the opportunity. So it does work when you put yourself out there. Before we go into part 3, I'm gonna like literally go through this really fast, because I know I don't want to make sure I don't run over. But yeah, any comments, questions, Natasha?
We did have one question. I closed my chat box so I could see your slides, and I went back into it, and the question seems to have disappeared, and I don't know if I've done that at all. But I'm going to try and recall the question as best as I can. Okay. It was a question from somebody I know, actually, so hello. Really glad they've joined the webinar today, and it's great to see they're getting involved with women in recruitment. However, the question was around and knowing this individual. I think the question was around having left perhaps being in an organisation and in a sector where you've become relatively well known, and you sort of built your profile, and now sort of moving into another arena where perhaps you may end up in a different sector, or you're having to re-establish yourself. What tips might you have for managing that transition? Oh,
awesome. That's a great question. And it's actually one that I've been through myself, because when I left the world of recruitment, I wanted to establish myself as a trainer. And I remember when I first built the business, especially if you are starting up either in a new position or it's a business, I was like, oh my God, why is nobody coming to me? And I kept getting calls, can you please recruit for us? I was like, no, I'm not a recruiter anymore. So I totally get that kind of like how to do it. So the first thing to do is definitely make those changes that I talked about to your profile. Change the heading, use the cover image at the back of your LinkedIn profile to rebrand or put something in there that reflects what you do. So that image is really important, because pictures tell 1,000 words, as we know. So start to make those small changes. Then put something out every day, whether it's just a question, whether it's a post, whether it's a quick video letting people know. On your LinkedIn profile, there is something called a featured section. If you don't have it yet, it will be rolled out, because it's being rolled out to everybody, but there is something called a featured section where you can upload videos and links and things like that. So do a quick introduction video and just introduce yourself as to why you're changing industry or sector, or whatever it is, and let people know what it is. What is it that you're now doing? So make those small changes. Start to join groups, you know, on LinkedIn, for example, that you can that are more related to your particular sector or industry. And don't just do this on LinkedIn. Obviously, LinkedIn is a massive big platform for business, but also start to put feelers out on things like Facebook, on Instagram, anywhere you can, where your brand can start to be seen more consistently in one way. And over time, it will happen. Just remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. And when you're transitioning, it's just about making those small changes, but doing them consistently. If there's any word that you write down from this webinar today, is write the word consistent. The more consistent you are, the more results will come. So I hope that helps, Natasha.
Thank you. And I guess I've got a question, and I know we're slightly ahead of time, but I've noticed, and I think a lot of people have been trying to unknowingly follow your advice over the last few weeks. People have had more time on their hands, and there's a huge amount of activity on LinkedIn, and I struggle to keep on top of everyone following and all the posts that are going out there. And I guess I've wondered over the last few weeks, you know, does a lot of this just become noise? And how do we make sure we cut through this noise? Yeah. Because I think there's a bit of competition going on at the moment with a lot of people. You know, how many posts can I make? Can I make more noise than the next person? And so there is something in the quality of what you put out, isn't it? And I think that's what's coming through in what you're talking about as well. It's the relevance, as you said, the consistency, yeah. and trying to just add noise that doesn't make people then look out for you when they have to scroll through their reams of posts or content that come up every day.
Yeah, so there's a couple of good things. One is LinkedIn, their algorithms work really well in that depending on how you set up your profile and the interests that you have on there. So you may want to relook at that in your settings. Your newsfeed will tend to show you things that you are interested in and it's relevant for you. And you're absolutely spot on, Natasha. Like I did a live the other day, and it was just literally about the fact that, you know, stop putting out content just for the sake of content. Yeah. You know, I personally think that when you have an opinion on something, and it's relevant and it's topical and it's something that you know will help your particular tribe, the right people will listen to it and the right people will get it. And when you're not doing it doing it for the sake of doing it, people then won't get tired. They won't become immune to it. Whereas when you're putting content out there and it's relevant, it sometimes could be controversial, it's impactful, then they'll be waiting to hear the next thing you want to say. So yeah, definitely make it relevant. Don't just put it out for the sake of putting it out.
Thank you. Just very as well, we've had just a couple of questions, and I think these are quite interesting, that ask how important Instagram and Facebook are for your own brand and your internal business brand as well. And I guess there's so many different channels we can use these days, and knowing which is the appropriate one is part of the skill. Yeah,
absolutely. So LinkedIn, obviously, for our industry is the number one. I'm a massive advocate of LinkedIn, always have been, and that's why I've now gone into training people on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is your key. So choose one that is your primary. Okay. How important is Facebook and Instagram? I think for visibility, it's great. Don't expect business from it though. So the great news about LinkedIn is, I don't know if some of you have a Twitter account still. I do, although I hardly ever use it. However, through LinkedIn, you can connect it to Twitter, and then the Twitter page, you can connect to a business Facebook page, which means that when you put things on LinkedIn, it will automatically go into that particular Facebook page because of the connection. And now, because obviously Instagram and Facebook are owned by Facebook, you can then attach your Instagram to that particular business page that you've got on Facebook. So it will help you in terms of time efficiency. And then obviously on LinkedIn, you can choose whether you're going to be sharing it with Twitter or whether you're going to share it just with people on LinkedIn. So that way you can decide that, oh, actually, I don't think this is right for Instagram or Facebook, or I don't really want to put this out there. But yeah, so I think they are you know, they are important. You know, those three particularly. YouTube is another one. All of those things are really, really important, but I would definitely stick with one as a primary. But Facebook is what we call a pay to play platform, which means that really your posts won't be seen, especially business posts won't get seen unless you put some ad spend behind it, because it is now a pay to play. Where we are with LinkedIn is where Facebook were 10 years ago. And so it's really, really good to be on LinkedIn right now for organic reach. And here's the other great statistic about LinkedIn. At the moment, there's 660 million plus users on it, but only 1% are putting content out there. Only 1%. So your content will be seen as long as it's relevant and it's got, you know, use the hashtags and things like that on LinkedIn.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks, Deenita.
Cool. Well, now let's go on to part 3, and this is about overcoming the fears that hold you back. So the question is, why is this part important for you? You know, as women in recruitment, you are confident, independent women who basically have either started a business or you are successful in your recruitment career, whatever position you're kind of coming from. So why should this element matter? Well, just going on from my own story, when I first, like I said, when I first started in recruitment, I almost left within 3 months, and it was thanks to people, you know, people who, my managers who coached me, but also because of my own interest in personal development, that I really got rid of some limiting beliefs that I had, which I didn't really know. I thought I was very confident, but there were things that stopped me from really putting myself in the limelight, and I think that is. Sadly to say, more prevalent within women than it is men. And I recently did a TEDx talk. So if you guys want a copy of that TEDx talk, you can just go to my LinkedIn, it's there. But I recently did a TEDx talk about why, you know, we hold ourselves from putting ourselves in the limelight, shining a bright light on us and bragging about our success. Because isn't it true? Think about the last time you bragged about your kids, you bragged about even your partner's success. You might have even bragged about something that great that the government were doing, and you bragged about Rishi Sunak and the help he was giving everybody. When was the last time you bragged about yourself? And I don't mean in an egotistical way. I mean literally shining a light on your successes and appreciating the fact that you are somebody who deserves to be recognized, rewarded, and put on a pedestal for a little while. Okay, but the only person that stops you from doing that is yourself. And there are a number of things that stopped us from doing, or that does stop us from doing it. So I just want to talk a little bit about that as the end of this, and to help you see how amazing you guys really are. So I love this quote by Theodore Roosevelt: "Comparison is the thief of joy." Because too many times, and ask me how I know, because I've been through it, but too many times, I often, especially when I was in recruitment, I compared myself to what my colleagues were doing. I compared myself to the success that they were having, and then I compared myself to what other people out there were doing, including my competitors. But the truth is perception is projection, right? You have no idea actually really how people are doing because they have a particular perception. But yet when you compare yourselves, you stop yourself from actually being the amazing person that you are. You stop yourself from doing things or putting things out there that actually work. My brother, I remember, told me a really, really good quote by Will Smith. And he says that the path to, he said that realism is the path to mediocrity. And too often when we have an idea, an innovative idea of where we can take, you know, the business, or where we can take, you know, your particular thought about a recruitment strategy, or how you can deal with candidates, or what new ideas and new strategies you might want to put in place. One of the things that stops you is yourself, by saying things aren't realistic. Oh, that's not realistic. Oh, that would never work. Oh God, you know what? That's not going to work. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm not even going to opt to say something. And it was actually Hewlett Packard that did a study that showed that when people applied for a job, women only applied for the job if they felt that they met 100% of the job description, whereas men applied for it if they met 60%. 60 versus 100, that's ridiculous. Because men were like, oh, we'll just learn as we go along, we'll give it a go. Women were like, oh no, I don't meet that. So how much of that do you do in your business, or at your desk, or in your environment? How much of that do you do? So and the thing is, realism is what can hold you back. But the truth is that the Wright brothers never thought that putting a human being on a piece of metal and flying it in the air wasn't realistic, because if they had, we wouldn't have planes today. Thomas Edison, he tried with the light bulb, I can't remember what it was now, 100,000 times or something. I can't remember what the number is. And all he said was, it wasn't 100,000 times that he'd failed. It was, 99,999 times that he just figured out how not to do it. By the way, those numbers are wrong because it's a different figure, but that was the message anyway, that he just figured out how not to do it. So he never thought of it as failure. He took it as feedback. And I think that's what you've got to do in your, whatever you move on to do, however you come out of this current crisis that we're in, whatever you move forward to, but you've got to ensure that even when you try something, if it doesn't work the first time, there's usually a different way to try it, and to make sure that you move forward. So let's just look at how we can stop our minds from thinking things are too realistic, or stopping us from doing it in the first place, and holding ourselves back. So the way this is something called the communication model, and it's a model in NLP about how we interpret information. So I'm just going to sort of very quickly go through this. So what happens is we have an event or an experience. Now, some of these things that I'm going to talk about actually stop you even from putting the right a potential candidate forward to a job, because you have made an assumption that they won't get the job. Has there ever been a time, and this was a real key thing for me, has there ever been a time in your recruitment career where you didn't put somebody forward for a particular job and then found out that they'd got that job through another agency with that same client, and you're like, damn it, why didn't I do that? What stopped me from putting them forward? So you have an experience, an event. So it might be, a candidate, might be a bad, somebody that you thought was going to get the job and never did, a bad experience with a client, etc. And you take that in. And then what you do is you delete, distort, or generalize. These are 3 filtering activities that your brain have, and that they filter based on all of these things. They filter based on decisions that you've made in the past. They filter based on memories. They filter based on the language that you tell yourself and you convince yourself, your beliefs, your values, or your attitude. All of this helps to delete, distort, and generalize. So for example, if you met a candidate and they let you down and they didn't turn up for interviews and they were really bad, you now generalize that all candidates like that will do the same thing. And so you generalize in a negative way, or you distort something, i.e. you look at the current climate, economical climate right now, and you're based on what you are hearing and negative things that you're hearing, you're now distorting that the recruitment market is never going to come back on its feet, or it's going to be really bad, or whatever it might be. You distort it to fit your own reality. Or you delete things.
To interrupt very quickly, I'd love you to carry on. I'm just going to let anyone that's in the session that needs to leave, because we've run over a little bit. I just want to let them know.
Sorry.
No, we're going to carry on because this is fabulous. But I just want to let people know that may have to go, that we're recording this. So they'll be able to access the rest of the content on the Women in Recruitment website if they have to go. But we're going to carry on because this is fascinating stuff. So we're going to keep going, and everyone that can stay, please do. But if not, the rest will be recorded and you can pick that up next week. So sorry to interrupt you.
No, don't. And sorry to always go over time. Sorry, I was told.
Sometimes you have to, because as you know, as you said earlier, we've got to be adaptable, and we're in a particular place at the moment, and you know, every now and again we've got to go with the flow and get the best out of the opportunities we've got. So carry on, please do.
Brilliant. Okay, so you distort things to fit your reality, because then that makes you feel better. Well, it's definitely that. It's like, oh yeah, it was somebody else's fault, it's something else's fault, because that is the best thing that I can say to myself. And then the third thing that we do is we delete, i.e. we delete things that aren't in our focus. So ever had that moment where you've either bought a brand new car and it's like a really unusual color, and you're driving down the motorway and suddenly you see the same car in the same color, and you're like, oh my God, I thought I thought I was the only one. That car was there all the time. You just didn't see it because it wasn't in your focus. So we do that as well. So we do that based on this. And if you are feeling disempowered, then you're going to be doing these three things in a negative way. And then that then gives you a particular internal representation, which means you make a meaning out of it. So that meaning is, oh God, all candidates are whatever, all clients are a waste of time, or so it might, whatever it is, that's your generalization, or whatever your meaning that you've made. That meaning then affects your state, which is your mental state, and your physiology as well, which is your body language. The best way I can describe this is if you're feeling really happy, try to put your body in a really like depressive state and smile at the same time. You cannot do it. Okay, your body, all of this is intertwined. Your body language can change the way that you think, can change the way that you that can also change how you think. Sorry, change the way that you feel and also the way you think. When this, then whatever this is, that then affects your behavior, which then affects your action or your communication. So, and that communication could be internally to yourself or externally to a client or candidate. And that's where you might be losing clients, candidates, or you might be actually disempowering yourself and stopping yourself from standing out. So a quick version of this is, whatever you believe, you will think. Then that leads to whatever you think, you will feel. And that feeling will then lead to a decision. That decision will lead to an action, and that will then lead to your results. So the question is that if you want to have, let me just do this, sorry. If you want to have better communication and better results, you have to change your behavior. In order to change your behavior, you've got to change what is happening inside your head and the way that you think and feel. In order to change the way that you think and feel, you've got to start having more empowering decisions, memories, language, beliefs, values, to change the way it filters. And that gives that event experience a whole new look. Okay. And that will really help you to start to think differently about putting yourself out there, about doing that first video. If you've never done a video on LinkedIn and put yourself out there, go back down here. Think, okay, what is it that I believe about myself doing a video? And how does that make me think? How does that make me feel? Okay, I now need to change what I believe, because your beliefs can be changed. And I want you to, just remember that when you start to believe in a more empowering way, your whole journey will change, and so will your results. So that was my last slide.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
So really nice way to end, actually, Deenita, as well, on a very positive and an empowering set of words. There haven't been any questions that have specifically come in about this piece. I'm imagining, like me, lots of people are reflecting on it. Think, what does this mean? And how do we make sure we keep our mindset in that place? Because it's so easy, isn't it, to let it drift and to be a bit scared to put yourself out there and do something that you haven't done before, and we've all been there. So thank you for giving us some ways of tackling that. It was really engaging presentation from you. Thank you. I can see why you're a coach and a TEDx speaker.
Oh, yes, thank you. If anybody wants to get in contact with me, they can obviously connect with me on LinkedIn. But I just want to mention this particular link. So if you are still on the webinar, take a picture of that. you need to put the www in for some reason. Like, I don't know, it doesn't work otherwise, but that is the link to my PDF for the Recruitment Gems Uncovered book. And there's a little bit about the communication model in there as well.
Thank you, and thank you for kindly sharing that with us. It's much appreciated. So next week, we will be meeting with Yasmin Sheikh, who will be talking to us about how we can put forward more diverse talent to our clients, and in particular those with disabilities. So I think that's another nice way of us starting to think about how, as women in recruitment, all the things that we thought about doing for women, how we can expand that out and explore how we can create cultures and environments now to impact other people who possibly need a bit more support and help in the workplace to ensure that they can achieve their maximum potential as well. I'm just going to check, I've just seen a couple of things come in on the chat to make sure we haven't missed anything. We have got one question, if you've got time to answer it, fabulous.
Yeah.
What have the most effective ways what have been the most effective ways you have found to change in your beliefs about yourself? Very interesting question.
Oh, that is a very
and some thank yous as well, just to mention there's been a few thank yous come through.
Oh, thank you very much, and you're welcome to all the thank yous. And you know, I love doing it. The biggest thing was, first of all, when I worked on myself, I had to work on myself first. So understanding that we are, you know, we are who, like, it's up to us to change it. That was a key thing, because often what happens is we look for external reasons as to why things don't go right, or why we aren't very good at something, or why we wouldn't. It's that judgment. And one of the things I let go of, and I think this is really, really key, and it's a condition that many of us suffer from, is I had to let go of perfection. Because I thought that I had to be perfect in order to be respected, established, and and known and recognized. We're all human, and I think that's one of the things I really worked on, just to let go and be myself and be authentically me. Because actually, you know, people came to me more as I did that. Interesting enough, on LinkedIn, when I do these quick 1-minute videos where I'm just walking around, I haven't got any makeup on, I'm literally like, oh, I just want to do a quick video because this thought just came to me. They get the most views than something that is polished. So,
Right.
you know, be as my mentor once said to me, don't be perfect, be passionate. And that really started to help me change the beliefs. And the other thing was, I thought beliefs couldn't be changed because, you know, they're things that you believe in, so they must be true. And somebody said to me, and I apologize in advance if I spoil it for anyone on this webinar, but I believe that Father Christmas was real when I was a young child. So put cookies out, biscuits out, he comes down a chimney, even though we didn't have one. And he's not. Sorry, he's not. So, but that's a belief I held when I was 6 years old, 7 years old, because it served me at the time. So when you start to change your beliefs, you've got to then practice and empower those beliefs, live by them, and that will help you. That will help you. It's not, and when you're having a bad day, embrace it. It goes back to that word embrace, Natasha. Embrace a bad day. It's all right to have one.
Thank you. And I'm going to close off with a message that's come through, which I think nicely summarises perhaps what we've all enjoyed over the last hour. Is really great messages and advice. So good to hear a talk like this in a time when work is so busy and pressurised for everyone. So on that note, we will wrap up and say thank you very much again, and we'll be back next week and see everyone hopefully then. Bye-bye.